I want to get to some new details emerging in a murder case in Orlando, Florida you may be quite familiar with. It's the case of Casey Anthony. She is the mother charged with murdering her 2-year-old daughter, Kaylee. You may remember last summer, Kaylee was missing for months before her body was finally found in the woods not far from the Anthony home. Some newly released documents show the FBI forensics lab identified a stain in the trunk of Casey's car. One investigator says that the stain resembled the silhouette of a child's body. This is an email exchange between two agents. It says, quote, "You can make out what may be the back, bottom, and legs most clearly. The image is best viewed on a computer screen rather than a printout, but several of us can see this image and agree there is a good chance we are seeing something significant." Dr. Cyril Wecht is a forensic pathologist who is familiar with this case as well. Doc, good to see you. Your thoughts about this idea of a silhouette in the trunk?
Well, it's fascinating, and indeed it could be significant evidence, and especially the kind that juries like, because they can visualize it and it doesn't require a forensic scientist to interpret it for them. However, in this case, keep in mind, as you have pointed out, Jane, that this was an email from Karen Cowan, one FBI analyst, to another FBI analyst. If it is not contained within a formal report setting forth an opinion with at least reasonable medical probability, reasonable scientific certainty, then at this point I would say it is nothing more than a rumination. This is not to say that it's incorrect or that it will prove to be irrelevant, but they're going to have to produce this in a formal, official fashion. As it stands now, an email of September 30th, 2008 is not going to withstand the evidentiary burden that will fall upon the shoulders of the prosecution.
Interesting that you say that, Doctor, because 2 days later, another technical worker at the FBI lab said, this is too speculative. This really isn't our job to jump to conclusions about what this stain may or may not be.
Yeah, there you are.
Something also that really is a bombshell in these documents that were released was that the duct tape that was found around Kaylee's mouth, there was no DNA match for Casey Anthony, for her mother, for anybody really in the Anthony family. They found what they call a partial profile of DNA. What does that tell us?
Well, as I understand it, Jane, that contamination has been traced to a female analyst in the FBI lab, which points out certain things, including something going back to the National Academy of Science report of several months ago that you don't just take for granted, and certainly you don't attribute to it infallibility because it emanates from the FBI lab. In this particular case, it's going to be something which the defense will seize upon to attack the credibility, the competence of the FBI scientist and other people. The fact that there was no DNA that comes from Kaylee or her mother or her grandmother doesn't mean, of course, that the tape was not affixed by the mother. It just means that there is no evidence. As we say sometimes in forensic science, the absence of evidence is no evidence of absence. Right. Think about that. So, but the contamination is of no consequence other than as a collateral nidus, a focus of attack, which may not have any particular impact as it eventually plays out. The things that are going to be important in this case are the fact that the child was missing for 1 month. The mother did not tell her parents. The grandparents did not find it necessary to ask where grandchild living in their own home was for a month. The fact that nobody else has entered into the scenario after more than a year who had any access to the child during that period of time, and so on. These are the kinds of things that are going to be extremely heavy for the defense to overcome. These are matters that go beyond forensic science. These are matters that an everyday citizen sitting on that jury is going to say, hey man, I just can't accept this.
Dr. Cyril Wecht, good to see you, Doc. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Thanks.